Her scream was the kind that silenced birds. Emma's wrists were pinned to the ground. Her face scraped the dirt floor. A boot pressed hard into her lower back. She couldn't move. Behind her, Wade was screaming too, begging. His voice cracked as he cried out her name. One of them held her down. Another went through the kitchen. Glass shattered. Chairs were kicked over. Pots clanged to the floor. The third one was beating Wade with a shovel. She heard the cracks. Bone, wood, then nothing. No more begging, no more name, only silence. Then came the questions. Where's the gold? She didn't answer. Her mouth was full of blood and dirt. They ripped drawers from the table, threw books against the wall, pulled up floorboards with crowbars. Still nothing. She's lying. He said he had a stash. Find it. They dragged her to the back room, slammed her against the wall. She could barely stand. Blood soaked the side of her dress. That was when she made her move. Through the window. Glass cut her arm. She didn't feel it. She ran. Branches clawed her face. Her lungs burned. The sun was almost gone. No time to think. Just move. Don't stop. Don't fall. Behind her, the sound of boots on wood, curses, gunshots. She didn't look back. Half a mile later, the trees opened, the land stretched flat, and at the edge of it, the ranch. Luke Ramsey's ranch. She collapsed just outside the gate, arms wrapped around the one thing she grabbed before running. A wooden crate, heavy. Rough. Stained. She didn't remember picking it up, but now, she held it like a lifeline. Luke was hammering iron when he heard the crash. He dropped the tongs, turned, froze. Emma Darnell was on her knees in the dirt, dress torn, blood on her cheek, hair like straw soaked in sweat. Arms locked around a crate like it was her child. He ran to her. She looked up, eyes wild. Luke, she whispered. They killed him. They're coming. Then she passed out. Luke lifted her gently. She weighed nothing, like bones wrapped in fear. Inside the cabin, he laid her down on the bench near the hearth, grabbed a clean towel, water, whiskey. He pressed the cloth to her side. She flinched hard. Easy, he said. Light, she gasped. Please, I hurt. I know, he said quietly. I'll be quick. The bleeding wasn't deep, but it was enough to leave a trail, enough for men to follow. He looked at the crate. It was old, locked. She'd held it like her soul was inside. What the hell was in that box? Outside, the wind picked up. And in the distance, far too close, came the sound of hooves. They were coming. 3 men, ruthless, armed, and angry. They'd already taken one life. Would they take another? Or was Emma Darnell about to find out that not all men run from the fight? Emma came to with a cough that rattled her ribs. The smell of burnt iron and old wood filled her nose. For a second, she forgot where she was. Then she saw him. Luke was sitting near the fire, watching her. Not saying a word, just watching. Her side throbbed like someone lit a match under her skin. She tried to sit up, but winced hard. Luke leaned in, his voice calm. Don't move too fast. You lost blood? Emma blinked. I didn't make it. You did. Barely. She let out a shaky breath. They killed him, Luke. I know. They beat him with a shovel. I heard it crack. Then they laughed, kept tearing through the house, said he lied about the gold. Luke didn't speak, just listened. Thing is, she whispered, he didn't have any damn gold. They think he buried something, out behind the barn maybe, or under the porch, but Wade never hid a thing. We barely had enough to eat. Luke rubbed his jaw. Sometimes, a man brags to the wrong person at the wrong time. Emma nodded. He liked to talk big. Said we'd strike it rich someday. Said he'd buy me land in Oregon. But he was just talking. We didn't even own the damn house. She looked over at the crate. I grabbed that thing on instinct. No clue why. It was under the table. Maybe Wade put something in it. Maybe not. But they're going to come back for it. Luke stood, poured a little whiskey into a tin cup, handed it to her. She sipped and coughed again, then something in her face shifted. Panic. They saw me run. They'll track me here. Luke didn't flinch. They'll try. You don't understand, she said. One of them. Big guy with a broken nose. He worked for us last spring, fixed the roof. He knows this land, knows where we live. Luke nodded slowly. Then I reckon he knows me too. Emma stared at him. Luke, you're not planning to fight them, are you? He looked out the window. Wind was picking up, storm coming in from the west. You got a better idea. She went quiet. Luke walked to the back room, moved a wooden barrel aside. Under it, a trap door covered in dust. He looked over his shoulder. You ever hear of a hider's hole? Emma shook her head. Back in the war, we used to dig 'em behind barns, in case the Rebs came through. Big enough to hold two. Quiet enough to wait 'em out. She sat up straighter. You think they'll check the barn? I hope they do. He lifted the trapdoor. Now, you can sit here and worry, or you can help me set a trap they'll never forget. Her eyes locked on his. Then the wind howled through the cracks in the cabin walls, and far off in the dark, a single shot echoed. Just one, but it meant everything, because Luke Ramsey knew they weren't coming to talk. They were coming to finish what they started. So the question was, who would strike first? The shot echoed through the valley like thunder rolling over dry land. Luke froze for half a breath, hand still on the trap door. Then another sound followed, hooves, slow at first, then faster. Closer. Emma's fingers clutched the blanket around her shoulders. They found the trail, she whispered. Luke nodded once, calm, like a man hearing the rain after years of drought. He grabbed his rifle from the rack, checked the chamber, and gave her a look that didn't need words. You hide down there, he said. No talking, no light. I can help, she said. He shook his head. Not tonight. She wanted to argue, but something in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't fear, it was memory, the kind that only soldiers carried. She climbed into the dark space under the floor. Luke lowered the lid and covered it with a rug. He blew out the lamps. The only light left came from the forge outside, a dull red glow that painted the room in blood and shadow. Outside, the horses stopped. 3 voices, laughing, confident. One called out, Evening, old man. We're looking for a lady came through here, pretty, wounded, carrying something that belongs to us. Luke didn't answer. He moved quietly to the side window, saw their shapes. 3 men, 2 on horseback, 1 on foot with a shotgun resting on his shoulder. They looked tired but mean, faces lit by torchlight, men who'd done enough killing to stop caring. Luke took a breath, whispered to himself, All right, boys, let's dance. He stepped out into the open. The wind caught his hat brim. His shadow stretched across the dirt like a ghost. She ain't here, he said. The man with the shotgun grinned. Funny thing, though. Her blood trail says otherwise. Luke smiled back. Then you better be sure it's hers before you follow it. The big one with the broken nose spat in the dirt. You hiding her. Ramsey. Luke met his eyes. I'm hiding no one, but I don't take kindly to men threatening women on my land. The man chuckled. Ain't your land anymore. He lifted the shotgun. Luke moved first. The first shot came from the shadows near the forge. The second followed fast. Sparks flew from the iron frame as a bullet hit the anvil. Horses screamed, men shouted. From the darkness under the floor, Emma covered her ears. Her heart pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. Then silence. And then a scream. Quick. Final. Stay. The forge hissed as blood hit the coals. When Luke opened the trapdoor, smoke rolled in behind him. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. It's done, he said. Emma stared at him. Are they, not all, he said. One's still breathing, and he's going to tell me why Wade had to die. If you've come this far into the story, take a sip of your tea or coffee, sit back and tell me something. What time is it where you are, and where are you listening from? And if you like stories of courage and second chances, go ahead and subscribe. That way, You won't miss what happens next. 'Cause this night isn't over yet. The man was still alive, barely. He lay against the fence, blood soaking through his shirt. His breath came in wet rattles. The smell of iron and smoke hung heavy in the air. Luke crouched beside him. The fire from the forge flickered on both their faces. "Why, Wade?" Luke asked. The man coughed. "Spit red." Tried to smile. He owed us." "No," Luke said. "You owed him. He paid you for fixing that roof." The man's eyes darted toward the barn. Luke followed the glance. Something there. Something the man was afraid of. Luke leaned closer. "What's in the barn?" The man didn't answer. So Luke grabbed a rag, pressed it hard against his wound. The man screamed. "Took gold," he gasped. "Said he had gold." Luke frowned. "Who told you that?" The man blinked slow. His head dropped. "Someone in town," he whispered. "Old traitor. Said Wade hit a vein near the creek. We came to collect." Luke stood up, wiped his hands on his jeans. "Collect," he said quietly. "You call that collecting?" He looked down at the body. "You just buried yourself in that same dirt." "Boy." Behind him, the barn door creaked. Emma stepped out from the shadows, holding the lantern. She looked pale, tired, but calm. "You shouldn't have come out," Luke said. "I had to see," she said softly. "I had to know." Her eyes went to the man's body, then to Luke. "You think he was telling the truth?" Luke nodded toward the barn. "Only one way to find out." They pushed open the big doors. The lantern light spilled across the dirt floor. Nothing but old tools, hay, and the smell of rust. Emma set the lantern down. "There's nothing here." Luke kicked at the ground, hard. The sound changed, hollow. He dropped to his knees, brushed away the dirt. A trapdoor. They stared at each other. Luke lifted it open. Inside, stacked neatly in a wooden chest, and were gold coins, real ones, dozens of them. Emma gasped. "He was going to surprise me. Said we'd buy land out west." Her hands trembled as she touched the coins. Luke exhaled slow. He wasn't lying after all. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the crackle of the forge filled the silence. Then Emma said quietly, "He died for this." Luke looked at her. "And we just might live because of it." Outside, the wind shifted. A distant sound echoed off the ridge. Hooves again. Slow, heavy. Too steady to be wild horses. Luke's hand went to his gun. He looked at Emma. They weren't the only ones looking for that gold. So the question is, when the next rider comes through that gate, will he be friend or something far worse? The sound of the hooves grew closer. Luke stepped forward, rifle still in his hand. His shadow stretched long across the dirt floor of the barn. Emma stood behind him, holding the lantern tight. The flame trembled. So did her breath. Out of the dark came a single rider. Old coat. Dusty hat. No gun drawn. He stopped at the gate and lifted a hand. Luke aimed anyway. "Who are you?" he called. The man dismounted slow. "Name's McCready, sheriff from the next town over." Luke hesitated, then lowered the rifle a little. The sheriff walked up to the fence, looked at the barn, at the bodies on the ground, at the gold shining faintly in the lantern light. "Looks like you had yourselves a long night," he said. Luke nodded once. "Long enough." The sheriff scratched his beard. "Heard gunfire. Came to see if anyone was still alive." Luke glanced back at Emma. She was watching the chest. Her hand rested on the coins, but her eyes were somewhere far away. The sheriff tipped his hat. "You two best get that buried. Folks kill for less out here." When he rode off, the wind settled again. The night went quiet. Luke turned to Emma. "You could take that gold and start new somewhere. Maybe California, Oregon. Wade would want that." She shook her head. "I don't think I want gold anymore. Luke, I just want peace." He nodded slowly. "Peace is harder to find than gold, but if you're lucky, it shows up when you least expect it." The morning came soft and gray. Together, they buried Wade on the hill behind the ranch. The sun broke through just enough to warm the stone at his grave. Emma stood there for a long while. Then she said quietly, "You saved my life." Luke smiled. "Maybe, but you kept me human." Weeks passed. The ranch grew quiet again. The forge still burned, but not as often. And sometimes, in the stillness, you could see them sitting by the fire, talking, laughing. Two people bound by something deeper than luck. People in town would later tell the story of that night. About the widow who ran through the dark. About the old soldier who stood his ground. And every time someone told it, they ended it the same way. Sometimes the things meant to destroy us are the very things that teach us how to live again. So maybe that's the lesson. My friend, what if the pain you're running from is really the thing that's shaping who you're supposed to be? What if the fire that burned you is the same one that will light your path? If that makes you think even for a second, then this story did its job. And before you go, I just want to say something from the heart. I'm truly grateful that you spend your time here, watching, listening, leaving kind words. I read many of your comments, but I see that some of you watch these stories deep into the night, and I worry a little. Please, take care of yourselves. These stories are meant to comfort, to keep you company for a while, not to steal your sleep. If it's already late, close your eyes soon, rest. The stories will still be here tomorrow. And if I don't always reply, I'm sorry. My age is catching up to me. Hours of sitting at this computer editing these videos leave me tired more than I like to admit. That's why I care more about my health now, and maybe about yours too. Thank you for being here, for listening, for keeping these old Western tales alive. Now tell me, where are you listening from tonight? And what does peace look like to you?